Time for my second review on my channel of a JD Brick kit, the Panzer III. Hello people, welcome to my YouTube channel. I've got another quick review today of another tank kit that I bought from JD Brick Productions. I just recently bought, well, a while ago I actually bought some of his brick arms products, as I mentioned before, and their video is still up on my channel in case anyone has any interest. From JD Brick Productions, who is a stop motion artist who's kind of the front man on YouTube for historical, World War II, generally stop motions. And he has a web shop in which he designs and sells his own kits for a lot of his tanks and his custom vehicles and some artillery pieces that he uses in his stop motion animations, which is kind of cool because you can sort of see his work up on the big screen, so to speak, and then you can purchase it and buy it for yourself. I did already do a review of his Panzer II, as people may have probably already seen, and I did want to get a chance to show off the fact that I also bought his Panzer III kit. Like I mentioned before, the Panzer II and the Panzer III are tanks that I have not built myself, so I bought them kind of in reference to that, just to see what it's like to have a kit built like this, and kind of get some inspiration if I would ever do those tanks myself. And this is the kind of the second half of that, in which I'm reviewing the Panzer III. So, not delving in too much, like I've already said before, about, you know, where JD Brick makes his stuff and how he gets it done. Obviously, you can look into his web shop and into his YouTube channel. I would encourage people to do that. As I've mentioned before, I don't have links or affiliation with him, but I am a huge fan of his work from a distance, and I'm proud to say that I bought some of his kits for my personal collection. So, this is the Panzer III. It is an early German Blitzkrieg tank from the 1930s, I believe. I don't know a lot about the Panzer III. It's not one of the particular tanks that I spent a lot of time reading about, like I did the Panzer IV when I designed that for myself, but it is a cool looking tank that served pretty much, I believe, from the beginning of the war all the way through to the end for the most part, and had a long lifespan in the German army during World War II. It was designed, obviously, in the 30s. It was a little bit older and then got upgraded as it went along, kind of retrofitted to be more accustomed to some larger tanks that had to fight in the future. This, I believe, is sort of a middle grade, early to middle grade Panzer III model. I don't know what specific model it's supposed to be. Different, at least each Ausführung about which one this one's supposed to be, but it seems sort of just like a middle grade Panzer III, and I kind of like that he generalized it instead of making it that specific. So get a chance to kind of show it off and talk about it a little bit. There's not too much to say when it comes to tanks like this, because there's a certain scale where if you build a medium and you don't put an interior in it, there's not a whole lot to say, because there's not an interior in this tank. It is designed, it appears to be for stop motion, which is what JD Brick does, so that would make a lot of sense. But that being said, it's a beautiful model. I'm a huge fan of his work and of this tank. So let's kind of get into what this actually is. Down on here, it's got the tracks here with the 6 road wheels. These are the same road wheels that he used on his Panzer II. I know there was another variation of his Panzer II where he used some different pieces for the wheels, but these are the same wheels, which is kind of interesting because if you look at, like, for example, the historical Panzer II to the Panzer III, the wheels are very, very different. So the fact that he used the same thing on both of them doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But these are very, very nice. These wheels are kind of what people have generally decided are the Panzer III wheels in the LEGO community, which I really like. He did end up putting tires on them so it would roll better with the tracks, which is very, very much appreciated because these tracks roll gloriously. He didn't use the running side of the gear for either of these, and it's just the back end. Unless, of course, I built that incorrectly, which is also a possibility, but I'm usually pretty fastidious when it comes to following my instructions. The tracks roll immaculately, obviously. It's something that I imagine was designed for stop motion and for his work, so the fact that he wanted it to move, you know, really seamlessly makes a lot of sense, and it's really satisfying to have a tank that rolls this well, because that's such a tricky thing to do. That being said, it's not bound into any gears or any specific rollers per se, so it will stay nice and firm, but it rolls really, really well. There's 3 return rollers that are obviously dummy ones, and then these right here, I believe, are escape hatches, or they're supposed to represent that. There is a small opening in there, obviously, with no interior. I think on the Panzer III, these were escape hatches, though I'm not entirely sure. I don't know enough about the Panzer III to know that, but during his little showcase on his website, and when he shows off this tank, it does show this open sometimes, being like a service hatch or something, so I'm imagining that's supposed to be a feature. The tank is built in a really clever way. It kind of has an odd number of studs that then transforms into a even number of studs out to the ends, which is really, really genius. If you ever get this kit and end up building it, you'll be able to see that and really appreciate that. It's really thoroughly designed. On the front here, we've got a bar holding extra track, which I thought in the instructions would stress out this bar, like it being bent out a little bit, but it's actually perfectly designed where this is still moving loose and the track can sit right in there. I love this technique. I might use it on some of my own tanks for that extra detail. That's really, really well done. On the front here, there's sort of that blocky curved transmission piece with the transmission ports, which is really, really well done. There's an offset ball machine gun with some of the old kind of like the old like Mixel like arm pieces to make a little ball mount MG34, I want to say, but don't quote me on that. Then there's also a vision port here for the driver. Obviously it's not real because there's no inside to it. There's a little bit of kit on the side here, including 2 extra road wheels, a hammer, a shovel, a wrench, and then some extra little packs on there, which is kind of nice. I always love that little detail on these sorts of things. Moving up to the turret, it's got sort of a blocky mantlet, which is a little bit weak. It's not too bad. This gun has a propensity to fall off, but it's not too terrible. The mantlet moves up and down really nicely, which is really, really nice. Obviously, you could change this gun too if you wanted the long gun variant of this. On the top, there's kind of that classic Lego style Panzer with the 2 cheese wedges for the side of the turret, which I'm personally not a fan of when it comes to building this, but it's okay. I think it looks pretty good on this model. There's a ventilator cap, a turret cupola, which doesn't have a hatch or open at all. Then on the side here, I don't know if this is just sloping or if this is all supposed to be a hatch, but it does show this in his instructions and on his website that these are openable hatches, probably for just hatch detail, which is kind of nice that he did end up including that. And then one of my favorite features personally on the back is the bustle box that does actually open. Building a bustle box that's not technically decorational and or decorative and has a an opening hatch in the back is the first time I'd ever seen that done, so very well done on that. I'm a huge fan of that. There's more engine deck pieces back here with some nice little sloping with this thing coming down here, and obviously the neat little mud guard. So that being said, that's about all there is to this tank altogether, outside of maybe these little dust jackets for the exhaust. But yeah, that's about it. It's a really good looking Panzer III. The Panzer III, I feel like, funnily enough, similar to the Panzer II, is a very tricky tank to get right. This is one of the models I feel like closest represents it, but I still feel like maybe it's off by just a tiny bit. But again, this is something that is so incredibly hard to build. That would make a lot of sense. Looking at it from the top, you can tell that the turret is maybe not as square as it might supposed to be for the Panzer III, but I still think that it's very, very good. I love the stud dimensions and how he bothered to do it. I think in scale, in contrast to a minifigure, it's very nice, but it's still a little bit too big. But this is a lot smaller than you see a lot of Panzer IIIs, so it's still very, very impressive. So that being said, there's not a whole lot more to this kit. I did purchase it from JD Brick, the web shop that he has. It's very, very nice, and I got it shipped in a decent time, and all the pieces are all brand new, and I appreciate all of that. So the process has been very seamless and very enjoyable. Like I said in my Panzer II video, I don't know if I'll keep this around or I'll scrap it for parts, but regardless, I'm very happy to have both these pieces and this tank in my collection, and it is very, very well designed, and I think it's cool that for a somewhat reasonable price, based off of what these kits actually cost, I was able to get one of these, and it's a really cool thing to have in my collection. So that's all for me today. This is JD Brick's Panzer III. It's a very, very good looking model and very, very functional for any mocks or modifications, or if you want to do a camouflage scheme on it or anything like that. But it's primarily seems to be made for stop motion, and would be just incredible if you have any interest in making your own historical Lego stop motions like how he does. But check out JD Brick Productions. He does some immaculate stuff and has a really fun web shop where he produces things like this. If you have any interest in getting this, please do so. It is worth the money and a very fun thing for any Lego World War II historical fans. That's all for me today. Just a little review, kind of this sort of just the two-part of reviewing this one and his other tank. And yeah, so that's it for me. Hopefully some new stuff coming soon, not just derpy reviews. I would also like to include some of my own models too, and I'm working on some new stuff, but this is all I got for today. So have a good rest of your day wherever you are, and I'm out of here. Peace.